Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the designer.
Bear down, Bears fans. Welcome in to another edition of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Pat, the designer, in the building. Lance Briggs, as always, here on a Monday. The weekend is over, and we're back for more Bears talk. Lance, how you feeling?
I'm feeling good. This is the top of the weekend. That means that the standard's set today. The week has to start off the right way. And this is how we do it the right way with the Chicago Bears Podcast.
That's how you got to do it, man. We're setting the standard for every other Bears podcaster out there. That's how I feel about it. Let's get into this show because I think we have a really good show today. Talking about a lot of different topics, starting off with overcoming being the underdog. Why the heck are we doing that here in the first quarter? Because the Miami Heat continue to just absolutely impress me night in and night out. Jimmy Butler is leading the way on a team that realistically, based on some of the names on the team, you feel like should not be here. Lance, you've been the underdog in certain situations. Question for you to start the show off. How do you become the mentality, or how do you overcome the mentality of being the underdog? Because a lot of times, right, there's a lot of players that could go into a game and be like, yeah, we're probably going to lose this one, boys. It's not looking pretty out here. Like, you see them boys on the other side, but that is not what we're seeing from the 8th seed Miami Heat. How do you overcome that mentality?
Well, anybody that is from or been a Bears fan knows that culturally we're an underdog city. We've been an underdog city for it's been a culture. It's been a culture here, So you get accustomed to it, but it really you tune out the outside noise, and you realize nothing that anybody says about you has to be has to be true. Like nothing anybody on the outside says about you has to be what it is. Yeah. You make what it is. You control your destiny. And that's the type of mentality that Miami seems to have. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you say that we're supposed to be blown out or we're supposed to lose this game. We're going to go out. We're going to play our fundamentals. We're going to do what we do best, and we're going to give it our best effort and see what comes out. And more often than not, they're finding ways to win games to defy what everybody says is supposed to happen. And the interesting thing is, I like to use these types of messages toward the kids that I coach, my own kids, and my circle's kids, any kids that are around. You are always going to be what you decide you're going to be, but you have to work hard at it. You have to stick to the plan. Yeah. You have to stick to the plan, and you will be surprised at the outcome. You're little kids, you come out, you get to you're playing hockey, you skate out, you see this team. They're a lot bigger than you. Your coaches tell you, oh man, this team is from Canada, or they're from Minnesota and they're so good. That does something to the team's mentality. Instead of bringing them out and saying, hey, listen, I want you guys to play your butts off, tell your tails off. I want you to show them who you are. Come out there and send a message from the very first drop of a puck or very first play from football. You will be surprised at what you can accomplish when your mentality is the right way.
I liken this to something that you guys went through where in the championship season, you guys end up playing the Patriots during the regular season. And I always have heard this from you guys when looking back on that run where we get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
You said you were ready for the Patriots the second time. You were prepared to play the Patriots in the Super Bowl. You were prepared for what Tom Brady was going to bring. And I think that that's the mentality, right, that I think that could have this Bears team. I believe that this Bears team could have a Miami Heat type of season with football. The reason I say that is the Miami Heat season wasn't impressive.
Correct.
Right? Like the regular season was just, we're just trying to go through the motions. We're just fighting our way to make the playoffs. We're clawing our way through, right? Like I think in the football sense, the Miami Heat had a 9-8, 8-9 kind of season.
Right.
But I think when you get in the playoffs you start to look at some of those teams that you played and you say, okay, but we know that we had this. This is what we needed to change. And we know we can change this. Now we can beat that team. This is how we look at this. Now we can do this. Is that kind of the mentality that you guys had if you would have been able to face the Patriots going into that Super Bowl for that second game?
I love that reference. I love that reference for that Patriot team. And we lost to that team. I remember us having 5 takeaways, I believe, and they had 6 takeaways. You know, that was really kind of the difference of the game.
Yeah.
And us leaving that game saying we want them. We want another shot at them. Yeah. Because we know we can beat them. You know what I mean? That's competitively, you know, it was so close and it was such a great match that it left us wanting more. Because we knew that was a team that we wanted to prove that we could beat. Unfortunately, we didn't play them. We ended up playing the Colts. But I think that was the 3rd game of the New York away sweep. Yeah, we were trying to sweep all of New York or the East Coast. It was a fun game. Just even preparing for it, going in, knowing that you're playing against a great Patriots team. Yeah. And we ended up coming away with the L, but we said, hey, listen, I'd love to. Nothing more to play them with all of their starters, everybody fresh and ready to play. We can beat that team.
Yeah, and I think that's the mentality that we've seen Miami take on. I think that's the mentality that we can see this Bears team take on, because I think about even the second half of last season, right? The Bears didn't have a problem putting up 25-plus points, which was crazy to say. Right. I think that they look at a lot of the teams that they lost to last season who at that time are better teams, but you've got to be looking around your locker room and saying, man, listen, that's not Byron Pringle no more. That's not, you know, the third wide receiver on another team. That's not the third DB on another team. No, we got some dogs out here now. That's not Jack Sanborn leading the way. That's Tremaine Edmonds with Jack Sanborn as his backup with TJ Edwards standing back there, right? I think that has to increase the mentality of how this Bears team is coming in with confidence this year. Now, you don't want that to turn into overconfidence, but I think at a minimum, right, if you're on the coaching staff, if you're on this team, there has to be that, yes, we're taking another step, and it might not be a Super Bowl step just yet, but we should be able to be competitive in every one of these games, and we should be able to start to turn some of those one-score losses into one-score wins, that kind of mentality coming into this season.
I'd love for the Bears to be in the position where they say, I want to play their best. You know, I don't need to look at the scouting report or the injury report and take a sigh of relief because 2 of their best players are their top players not there. No, I want you at your best. I want all of your best players because our best players are better than yours. Right. Our players are still better than yours, and we want to go out and prove it. We don't get to prove anything if your best player, if your top player is not there. You know, what does that do for us? It doesn't. We might get the win, but I want to get the win with you on the team as well. And I really want our team to be in the position where they're as confident about their team against anybody.
How do you build that mindset up starting now, right? Because the thing that I always hear that nobody. I love when people say OTAs don't matter, this part doesn't matter, it's the end of the world, because you don't hear that from the championship teams. You don't hear that from the best teams. They say that we started this day one. We've had these same habits day one. We've had these same habits at the beginning of everything that we've been trying to do. How do you start to build those habits now?
Repetition, and, defensively in OTAs, you should see every situation. Right. You should see every situation that you can think of, you know what I mean, for the most part. There's a few things here and there, but and in those situations, for a 4-year veteran Lance Briggs or a second-year Charles Tillman, we're all running these drills together and seeing all these situations. And every time we run these situations and we making our drops or we're reading these runs, Peanut's right where he's supposed to be every time. Lance is right where he's supposed to be every time. Urlacher's right where he's supposed to be every time. There's a confidence of knowing you're going to be where you're supposed to be when the game, when the season comes. So through the repetition, every time this puller comes and I hit this puller, I see Brian coming in right now making the play. Boom. Every time there's a crack replace, there's an outside receiver comes in, he cracks Lance from the outside. Right. Peanut fills in right now and he takes the running back to the outside. He's there. I know that there's no hesitation, and I know that there's trust when the season comes in that everybody's going to be where they need to be.
Right.
So if there's something that fails, if we have a gash here or they get down the field, they have a big run, 30 yards, I know that you knew where you were supposed to be, or for me. So somebody's going to be yelling at him. Somebody's going to get my ass, or I'm going to get in theirs.
Yeah.
About, hey, listen, you know what you're supposed to do. Get it done.
Yeah.
Or vice versa. So that's where a lot of trust is really built from the players and the coaches.
Here, how do you build that Jimmy Butler mindset? And what I mean by this is the Bears hear, they hear what people are saying about the defense, right? I think the offense is getting a good amount of praise right now, but they hear that, this defense still has holes. This defense still doesn't have depth. This defense still doesn't have this, that, whatever it may be. How do you build that Jimmy Butler mindset up as a player of, I don't care what we have, we're going to go out here and we're going to give y'all the toughest fight that you've ever seen in your life, and 9 times out of 10 you might be on the losing end of that, because I think that's where it's the beginning guy, right? That guy that's at the front of it pushing everybody through. Jimmy is the reason that they're here. Even in his down games, you can look at it and be like, but he did this, he did this, he did this. How do you build that mentality? Well,
he's affecting the game, any way that he possibly can. Shots don't always fall, but you can always play defense. You can always hustle. You can always give great effort, and have a great attitude. And so the some of the stats that don't show up that most people can appreciate are the ones that matter the most within your team, And so if you're a guy that is counted on to make these shots, and you're not making shots, but you're still hustling and maybe you're getting assists, maybe you're getting the ball back, getting us another opportunity basketball wise to get another shot. Somebody else can take a shot.
Yeah.
That looms huge in your locker room. Your morale is going to be up because you have a guy that is unselfish, even in the moments that he can be selfish.
Yeah, I think that when I look at this team, I see how guys fit. I don't know if every spot is the best talent that there is in the league. I don't think that we'd say that about any spot on this team right now, but I see how guys fit. And to me, that's what makes me kind of feel better about how this team is constructed. That's how I feel about this Miami Heat team. I see how Gabe Vincent fits. I see how Max Strus fits. I see how Duncan Robinson fits. I don't think that they're the best at what they do right now, but I think that the perfect fit along with that guy like a Jimmy Butler, who's like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get us here, and I don't care what the writers are saying, reporters are saying, any of that. We're going to keep moving forward. I think that that's the reason why I look at this Bears team, and I'm like, listen, I don't know if they're going to go on a deep run in the playoffs. I don't even know if they'll get to the playoffs. But there's a lot of teams that aren't going to be that excited to see the Chicago Bears on Sunday this season. It's not going to be the case.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing, too, is that this is a work in progress.
Yeah.
And so we don't know what we have. We don't know what we have yet. The Bears, but what we do know is that there's a structure that's in place. There's a foundation of Matt Eberflus and Alan Williams. Their foundation, we've seen what their foundation looks like last year. We saw what it looked like in Indianapolis. So we know what to expect out of these guys. And with that being said, once we get an idea of what the identity of this team is going to be in 2023, the sad part is when we're all humming on at the same pace at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Then we're like, oh man, I love what our defense is doing. I love our pieces. We're all together now. We're dominant. Now it's going to get to we got contract talks. Who can we keep? And I want to keep everyone, but who? And it's going to get to that point. Right. And so right now, what I love is that we don't know. We don't know, but we do know what the foundation is. And so based off the foundation and the pieces that are in place, it all leads to success, in my opinion.
And the best part is we don't know in a year that we still got some money left.
We got some money, and we got some picks.
That's the best thing in the world. It's like usually we don't know in a year where it's like we really don't have a choice. Like I look at the Bulls and it was like, everybody was like, you got to move on from Vooch. I'm like, for what? One, you don't know what you have coming up behind him. And two, you're not saving any money by moving on from Vooch. You have no options. You have to keep Vooch in this situation. It seems like the Bulls are going to do that. But that's not the situation that the Bears are in. Like, there's a lot of question mark pieces. And it's like, hey, listen, if you show out, we got money. If you don't show out, we got money for somebody else. So very different situation that this Bears team is coming in, man. And I think here's the thing. And we talked about starting it now. Let's get into the second quarter. Because I think that right now, when you're looking at this Bears team, they're getting ready to try and refine those smaller things. And they just announced that they're going to be doing joint practices with the Colts during preseason. Now this was, I don't know if they just announced it, but I think that they announced kind of where it's going to be and that it's definitely going to happen. You were a part of joint practices.
Yep.
Is there a benefit to the Bears doing joint practices, or is this just it finally gives us somebody else to try and hit because we're sick of hitting each other? But is there a benefit that actually carries on through the season?
I think there's a benefit, if you're because the practices in training camp, they get really monotonous. It's just over and over, and you're always hitting the same guys. You're hitting your teammates, practicing different situations. Yeah. Having an opportunity to compete against another team for those practices, it raises the competition. There's a sense of pride. Yeah. Of winning each drill against whoever your opponent is. We had joint practices with the St. Louis Rams. Lovey had come from St. Louis, and him and Mike Martz actually ended up coaching together in the Bears. But at the time, we had joint practices. So I'm thinking, as a linebacker, I don't know if I'm gonna get the opportunity, but I'd love to get some one-on-ones against Marshall Faulk. And so what we learned was when it was time to do full pads. Everybody was in full pads except for Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, and Marshall Faulk. Okay, they just wearing helmets. Okay, which is fine. Whatever. They'd earned that right. And so we're doing one-on-ones, and this was a day that Urlacher wasn't practicing that day.
Right.
And so it just happened to fall where I'm going to get my shot to get a one-on-one with Marshall Faulk. Right. We've been practicing, LB routes, and I've been doing a good job on our running backs.
Yeah.
I get in, and Marshall Faulk runs like it's like a zigzag, stop, hitch, go, step. You know what I mean? Zip, 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 zip.
Yeah.
And I'm spinning around, and then he catches the ball, and I walk over to my coach, and I'm like, Bob, I've never seen anything like that. He's like, Lance, I've never seen anything like that. We don't teach that. We don't coach that. And you're never going to see that in football. So don't even worry about it.
Marshall Faulk hit you with some street ball. Marshall Faulk was just doing there was no play call on that.
That was nothing. The play took, the route he ran took at least 8 seconds to run. All right. The average play in the NFL is 8 seconds. 6 to 8 seconds. This is crazy.
He just wanted to show you that I'm still Marshall Faulk. I don't care if I got these pads on or not. That's all that one was.
Yeah. He wanted to show the young man. You're not ready for me.
Hey, that's all right, man. Did you get a chance to play against him? You got a chance to play against him during the season, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd that matchup go? How'd that? Yeah.
So, which is interesting, because we knew that if he was blocking, we were going to send a blitz. We're going to send an outside blitz because we didn't believe he was a great blocker. So I got the call. I go on this outside blitz, and we had talked about. I said I'm going to bull rush him the first time. Yeah. Right. So the first time I go in, I bull rush the dog inside of Marshall Faulk. Feet come off the ground. Boom, 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 boom. Right. He gets up pissed. He's like, okay, youngster, okay. So they get into the same set. They call it again, and when I get to the line, he looks at his knees. He goes, "I'm coming after your knees." He's like, "I'm coming after your knees." Right. So I was like, "Okay, come after my knees then." So on the snap of the ball, I sprint up, right, and as soon as I get close to him, I stop. I just stopped. I was like, and he dipped down. I was like, "Nope." You know what I mean? You're not getting my knees, buddy.
So he didn't dropped out of the play. He didn't dropped out of the play completely. Yeah, he probably didn't like that. I mean, come on, dog. You can't be hurting Marshall Faulk out here, man. You put him on his back like that, dog.
Listen. When you're on the football field, man, that's the team that just numbers. And if you think of them any other way, then you're at a loss.
Hey,
Marshall Faulk, I see his number, he's an opponent, I gotta go.
Hey, I love it, man. It's just that's how it's interesting to hear, right? Like that stuff carry over, because I think the only times that we ever care about the joint practices or pay attention to the joint practices is when
there's a fight.
There's a fight and or somebody gets cooked, right? Like the one that, and I think it actually ended in an injury. So not like laughing at the situation, but Buddy was talking trash to D-Hop. D-Hop made his move, Buddy went down, and I think he might have tore his ACL. But
D'Angelo Hall,
that's exactly who it was. And D-Hop, but he shook him. He was like, "You talking?" He was like, "I fear God." So those are the moments that we key in on. Are those the moments do those moments carry over into the season? If I see you again, do those moments, right? Like if something crazy happens during the joint, does that carry over into the regular season?
Well, the problem with stuff like that is what the media chooses to highlight.
Right.
Okay. You know what I mean? And when you see a receiver cooking a DB or a corner,
right?
And they use that as the highlight. They leave out all the other plays where the DB locked that receiver up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you chose to pick this play where the receiver actually made he made a good play on it instead of all the consistent plays from that corner. To show, hey, listen, this corner played his tail off in that practice. As well, he battled his tail off. You're not going to win them all.
Right.
You're not going to win them all. They get paid on both sides. But it does bother me that not enough of the DB's plays, get attention.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But offense sells, we get it. And that's the difference between offense and defense. You have to know, listen, we take the brunt of it. We take the brunt of it. Just stay consistent.
That's an interesting point, because I guess you don't think about it in the sense of the DB winning that because it's a pass breakup, right? Or it's not going to be an interception every play. But those pass breakups are the ones that we talk about at the end of the game where we're like, listen, he had 44 yards, 10 targets, 2 catches.
Right.
The DB won, but you don't talk about those in the offseason. I can see why that could be irritating. I get you that one.
It can be irritating. You know what I mean? If you do look at that, listen, he had 44 yards this game.
Yeah.
He had 44 yards against this corner or against their defensive backfield, but you highlight the one play where he made that he basically made all his catches on one play on that 44 yards. But you know what? This defensive backfield, they shut them down. They had 175 yards of passing offense. That's what that's the consistency of the technique, the fundamentals, right?
Yeah. No, I you know what? And I think that it's like you said, the offense sells, but I think that's why even to this day, right? Like I think about Super Bowl moments. I think about the big time moments when you look at a lot of these players and you're talking about who had the best game. When I look at that that Bengals versus the Rams Super Bowl,
Aaron Donald.
Right? Versus Aaron Donald. I think about Aaron Donald's last play of that game where he saves the Super Bowl by getting the game-saving sack. But I also think about on the other side, I was looking at Jalen Ramsey all night like, hey, my brother, you going to slow somebody down out here? Because there's a lot of yards and touchdowns happening against you. And I look at that last play, you see, was that Jamar Chase streaking down the sideline wide open because the DB misses that play. But it takes another guy on the defensive side to save that play. So the defense still, right, like the impact is shown less. But without it, you're not talking about a lot of these teams having those Super Bowl rings. Heck, Tom Brady's first 3 rings, I don't think defense get talked about enough.
Right. So, but at the same time, what's not celebrated, by the media is behind those closed doors, and the same thing goes for, the other unsung heroes are the offensive linemen. Yeah. People don't get enough credit to the offensive linemen, but, all of those receivers that are doing dances and this and that and showing off on first down, none of that comes into play if you don't get enough protection. And if the running back has to come in and protect as well, none of those plays happen unless those linemen do a good job blocking.
No, that's what I talk about all the time, because I be sitting there because there was a lot of people that came out after the Bengals started doing what they did, and I think with Pat Mahomes doing what he did, getting to another Super Bowl and not having the offensive line help, people kind of got the idea of like, well, if I get these receivers and I got the right quarterback, I can get the offensive line later. I'm like, y'all gonna get a lot of quarterbacks killed if y'all think that way. like it's a lot of quarterbacks not gonna be able to stand back there. Let's keep this going. I actually want to keep that into the third quarter, but we had halftime because I think you brought up a really good topic, and that's gonna go into our third quarter topic. But at halftime, Lance, halftime's the time we can talk about anything. So Lance, in Chicago this week, Taylor Swift was in town. Oh, T Swift fan? You mess with T Swift?
The anti-hero herself. She was in town.
You a big T Swift guy, are you?
I mean, I don't have. Listen, I'm not carrying around her albums or anything like that. But listen, I listen to a few of her songs.
You dabble here and there. That's
yeah.
Now listen, Taylor Swift apparently puts on an amazing show. They're saying it's one of the best shows that has been out there. I think that Beyonce might still have that, but hey, I didn't see the concert either, so I can't debate one way or the other. But I heard
she plays all of her songs.
I've heard that as well. I've heard that she puts on a show, so I will give her credit on that.
That's good.
The question that I will ask you though, the tickets were $5,000 a ticket. Probably not to sit in the best seats, more than likely. So let me ask you this: is there an event that you would pay $5,000 a ticket on just to go see it for, what are we talking, 3 hours? 3 hours for a T Swift concert? 3 hours of your day for $5,000. Is there a show that you would go see for that?
Yes.
Who is that?
Yes, there is. Any show that my kids are in.
All right, Lance, you're going to bring the family into this one. All right.
I'm just putting it out there.
That one. I can't. What am I going to say to that?
There's probably, if that's the case, there's probably a good chance I might not have to pay the $5,000.
You know what I mean?
But I would have no problem paying $5,000 to watch my kids in any show, whatever it is you call it.
Outside of your kids, there's nobody you dropping $5,000 on to go see.
My mother. Ask me again. I got a lot of family members.
That you're willing to go see, though. That's the thing that you're willing to go see.
I'm just listen. When it comes to what I would start to question as far as what I'm gonna pay to see.
Yeah.
When it starts with family, family and friends, man, those are places where That's it. It's more about, hey, how long do I have to fly in? What do we have to do to get there? That kind of stuff. But that doesn't go with that. I don't question that stuff.
Hey, I was trying to think of this. I literally came to the conclusion. I said all the people that I would do that for are dead. Like I would go see Michael Jackson. I would probably pay that to go see Prince, just because those are like once in a lifetime events at that point. Like I don't know many people who've seen Michael Jackson like 5 times.
Have you heard Michael Jackson's real voice?
The deep voice?
The deep one?
The deep voice, yeah. Yes. There was a documentary they did on, I forget what channel it was on, but it was like Mike talking on the phone to Quincy Jones, and it was like, yeah, that's what I was saying the other
No, crazy.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, the deep voice in The Girl Is Mine by Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson is Michael Jackson. So the part at the end where it's like, the girl is mine. I believe that's Michael Jackson.
That's crazy to walk around your whole life falsetto. Like it's all falsetto. Hey, how you doing? I don't know what I'm
I was just in the game, and I thought that, sometimes. Hey, what's going on, blood? How you feeling over there, my G? Good to see you, dog.
Hey, you think you could get me a beer? I'm a little thirsty.
After 3 beers? Yeah, that's what I was telling you. You know what I mean? I just thought that.
Hey, Mom, Bruce.
Let's get back into some football. Oh God, that's so funny. Prince was the same way too, though. What was that? Was that an '80s thing?
But yeah, Prince sung in falsetto.
Yeah.
But when he talked, he talked.
He did talk with his normal voice more time. But like that's just weird. Like you just hey, can you run that back for me? I just want to hear that in my headphones real quick. Oh, beautiful. Where did that come from?
Yeah. That's funny.
Let's get into this third quarter, man, because
third quarter.
I think that when you were talking about the defensive side of the ball, it brings up, right, like, listen, Jaylon Johnson has said that he is going to be at OTAs this week, and that, there was just some scheduling conflicts that happened before this. Nate Davis also has been a no-show as well. I still don't think we know if he's going to be there this week for OTAs, but you talked about DB production. You talked about defensive production. I think that this is a really interesting conversation because of the kind of player that Jaylon Johnson has been here. If you look at advanced stats, advanced analytics, right, he's top in the NFL in pass breakups. He's one of the better guys, right, on the defensive side of the football between the first 5 yards, being able to attack receivers, all of those advanced analytics that they've come out with. But at the end of the day, the one thing that people keep talking about with Jaylon Johnson is one interception in his entire career. He's been in the NFL now. This will be year 4, I believe, for Jaylon Johnson coming into this.
No, it should be 3. This is 3.
Year three.
Yeah, 2 years. It's 2 years. Yeah, he's got 2 years.
So in 2 years, he's coming into his third year. He hasn't had. That's right. That's absolutely right. He hasn't had more than one interception his whole career. You look at a guy like Kyler Gordon last year who got 3 in one season. When you look at that, when you're talking about production, when you're talking about possible contract situation issue that he could be coming into this season, how do you look at the defensive production that he's had? Because I think the eye test would tell you he's a pretty good DB. He's not great,
he's very good,
but he's a pretty good DB. How are you viewing it?
Here's one of the issues between a good DB and a great DB. All right, when you have a monster pass rush, all right, let's just say you have a pass rush. Let's just say you have a pass rush that forces the ball out within 4 seconds on, let's say, 80% of the throws.
Right.
Okay. That allows your defensive back to go through his fundamentals and to make breaks when they're supposed to. There's a clock in their head. There's a clock in the quarterback's head that says, boom, we're at 3.5 seconds now. Our receiver's starting to make his break. I can break right now.
Right.
Okay. I can break right now. Okay. I don't have to stay over the top. Okay. If you have a team that cannot force that throw to come out within 4 or less seconds, then you have to stay over the top as a corner. Right. You have to play it safe. So you're working about double moves, triple moves, because you have a quarterback that can pad his hand, go back and forth. So to me, the difference between Jaylon Johnson being a good corner versus a great corner is the pass rush. It's very difficult to have a great coverage system without a rush system. They work together. It's rush and cover. So, last year, the Bears, their pass rush wasn't, it sucked. It did.
Yeah.
It did. Without saying another, more eloquently, that's what it was. And so, and I believe that the Bears have one of the better defensive backfields in the NFL. And once we get our rush, I think our coverage is going to take the ball away more than anybody else in the league. And I think that we will take a step forward this year. I don't know how many steps forward from last year, but I believe we will take a step forward from last year with our pass rush. And Jaylon Johnson will find more success.
I think the question that a lot of people then would ask is, right, like Kyler Gordon was a rookie last season. How does he end up with 3 versus your guy who's the veteran in that situation who still, I believe, right, first career last season, right? Like that. It's I guess at the basis point of it, the most simple point of it, right, like is what are you looking for from your DB, right? Are you looking for those 5-6 takeaways, or are you just looking for him to be one of the most consistent pass breakup guys in the NFL? Because realistically, yeah, he doesn't have a ton of takeaways, but I can't throw him the football because every time I throw the football his way, he's knocking the ball away.
Right. And if that's the case, then we're going to go toward the rookie, the young guy. We're going to throw at him more because when you look at the scouting report, when we throw it at Jaylon Johnson, the percentage of receptions goes down, of completions goes down.
Right.
If we throw it this way, the percentage goes up. So we're going to test him more we're going to test the rookie more. And if you're going to test the rookie more, guess what? He's going to have more opportunities for interceptions. I don't know what that stat is. I don't know exactly what that, all of that stuff that goes into it. But I do know that Jaylon is I think he's a hell of a corner. He's a hell of a DB. And given the right opportunities, great with the good pass rush, I think he thrives in the system.
No, I think that's the part for me that I've looked at with Jaylon Johnson his first 2 years is I think last year they threw to him a little bit more. They were more willing to attack him because I think Kyler Gordon showed towards that second half of the season, right? Like, okay, I'm not a schmuck out here. I know how to play this position. Like, y'all not just going to keep sitting here trying to pick on me and I'm not going to come away with the football a couple of times. But I think, right, you look at rookie year, your DB was basically Jaylon Johnson. Yeah. Right? Like he was your number one his rookie season. He was the best available. You had Kendall Vilder on the other side. We saw him get picked on a ton by quarterbacks a lot. So I think that, right, like when you start to look at that rookie season, I kind of get more. I feel like they threw to him less just because they were like, he's got some talent. And this guy right here just hasn't caught up to what we're doing yet. We're going to attack him more. I think last season they went to Jaylon a little bit more, but I do see what you're saying where, right, like you're going to attack the rookie and try and get him out of his game because this guy over here who's the vet probably already knows if we get him out of his game, he knows how to get back into his game.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of competition at that in the DBs, the corners, the safeties this year for guys just because of draft picks and free agents. Yeah. So which is going to be a healthy competition to help push everybody. And the sooner that Jaylon gets in, the sooner that he can come out and show them the reason why he's a premier and is a starting corner. I do think that his interception numbers will go up this year. I see him getting 2-3 picks this year, at the least. Yeah. At the least, if not more. But I think his opportunities are going to come, and when they come in bunches.
How would you guys view? Because I talked with J-Mac about this, and J-Mac kind of said he said, listen, voluntary workouts when we were playing were voluntary workouts. I use the air quotes on that, right? Like it was voluntary, but like if you didn't show up to voluntary, somebody was going to have some questions for you when you finally showed up. How would you guys view Jaylon Johnson's situation? I guess maybe a little bit different, but like Nate Davis just signed his contract. He has a rookie standing next to him on the right side. He has Cody Whitehair, who he's never played with on the left side. Yeah, he knows the scheme, but how would you guys have handled no shows at voluntary workouts, no shows at this stage of the season? Is it just, hey, you doing what you're doing, or would there have been a couple conversations had?
Let me ask you, Pat, are you worried about Nate Davis?
I'm more worried about Nate Davis in the sense of I think that he would help Darnell Wright on the right side of him, who we just took as a high pick. But I'm not worried about him showing up and being able to play, no.
When you plug them in, your center's going to make the calls. Your center's going to make the calls. Your quarterback's going to make the calls. You looking for a combo call. You and the tackle will make a combo call. These guys have been playing offensive line for a long time. I'm sure they know every offensive scheme and game to look for. Nate Davis is a vet, and I'm sure that in today's day, that he's just not sitting on the couch playing video games and you know what I mean, and eating onion dip. You know what I mean? Like he'll
very
be ready
with the onion dip.
I'm onion dip. You know what I mean? Just dipping it.
Is there a benefit though to, you've never worked with these guys? At least right, Jaylon Johnson, he's been in the system, he's been in the scheme. Is there a benefit though to showing up for these moments where you've never worked with these guys, you don't know who these guys are? Your quarterback has kind of said, we'd like the new guys to be here, but again, voluntary.
Yeah, yes, there's a benefit. Of course, there's a benefit if you're there. Right. Of course, there's a benefit. We're not gonna dismiss whether there's a benefit, but are you going to lose your first 3 games because he wasn't at OTAs?
Probably not. I hope not anyway. Listen, I hope not.
Not at all. You're not going to lose your first 3 games because he's not at OTAs. You're not. You know what I mean? If he doesn't make OTAs and he shows up at every day for training camp, shows up every day, and we say, oh man, guy, one of the old linemen that are standing out in training camp is Nate Davis. Oh, Nate Davis, man, look at him. Look at him just moving the piles, opening holes. Right. Oh man. Oh, but he didn't show up at OTAs. Yeah. Come on.
You don't have that conversation. You only have that conversation if he shows up and he's a little bit flat or he's not ready to go.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. He's a vet. He knows what he's supposed to do. Yeah. He knows what he's supposed to do. And when he does show up or when he comes in, if he comes in, then more happy for the Bears. Happier for the Bears and their organization and their unit.
Listen, let's hope so. I like how maybe it's different for different people, right? Like that's why I wanted to have this conversation because, right, like credit to everybody who was on that team. You guys were all amazing, but there's a little bit of a difference between Lance Briggs and J-Mac. So that's why I wanted to get both perspectives, right? Because I feel like with your perspective, it's more of I'm one of the premier players on this defensive side, and I'm going to be able to go out there and do what I need to do, whether I'm at OTAs or not.
Yeah, it's now,
and it's not
it's different
either way.
It's different. It's different for each player, for different players. And I was specifically talking about Nate Davis and Jaylon Johnson.
Right.
You know, now there are new guys that are showing up. There are new signed free agents. You know that you have that you're in a battle with somebody else. You don't know where you're going to stand.
Yeah.
And so the sooner that you get in, that you can get acclimated to the defense, the foundation, and the way that the Bear way, the way that they do things, the sooner that you'll know where you're going to be in that depth chart come August, you know, and it's a fight to get up in that depth chart to get considered. Hey, I'm on all the special teams,
right?
So I know I'm backing it up, you know, or they're starting to take me off of some of the special teams because I'm working my way onto this depth chart, the ones and twos. So it's interesting. You know, it's one of the things you always look at. You look at if you're not in the ones and twos, if you're on all of the special teams.
Right.
If you're on the more special teams you're on, the more secure your job is on the team. You know, and if you're not in one of the ones and twos and you start seeing your name getting taken off of the special teams, you know that you're getting that pink slip soon. They're getting ready to cut you.
That's tough. That's tough. You just start to see your name. Hey, Coach, I'm out there. No, you ain't in on this one.
Coach, Coach, I was running with the ones yesterday. It looks like I'm down on the threes on KOR. What's going on?
You know what's going on. Oh, come on, Coach. Hold on.
Right. Yeah, we want to see Smith get some more reps today.
That's
tough. That's tough. That's true.
That's tough. That's death by 1,000 cuts. That sucks. Cause like I don't think I ever realized that. I guess like it makes perfect sense, but I don't know if I ever realized, right? Like you just slowly start seeing your name get taken off stuff. You're like, hey, Coach, what's going on with that?
Yeah. Listen, you know, we'll have a group of linebackers. We'll have 9, 10 linebackers.
Yeah.
And we're only going to keep 6. You know, we're only going to keep 6. So all the other guys are looking, you know, and you have an Urlacher, you have a Briggs, you know, you might have a Hillemeyer, you might have a Nick Roach.
Yeah.
You know, so really it's all of them fighting for one spot, you know, and so everybody's like looking at that special teams depth chart. You know, like, oh, I'm still with the ones. Or he was like, Briggs, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be, man. I'm running with the 4s right now.
But I'm doing a hell of a job on the 4s. Yeah. They can't keep up with me. Oh, man, let's keep this thing moving along, man. Great conversation today on the Chicago Bears podcast. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Appreciate you guys for showing love as you guys have to this show as it's gotten off of the ground. Again, Lance Briggs here on a Monday. Let's get into the fourth quarter, Lance.
Fourth quarter.
Because Arlington Heights could be on hold based on some tax issues. Big shock there, right? Like, listen, even the Chicago Bears aren't there for the taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's I don't feel bad about feeling bad about my taxes ever again. When the Bears are like, bro, I'm not here for the taxes. All right, that's all you need to know. I guess here's the thing. What is your real hope for the stadium outcome? As somebody who played there, who's been a part of the history there, who's been a part of everything that's going on at Soldier Field, is there a part of you that's like, maybe Chicago can get this thing worked out? Or are you on the side of, hey, listen, it's been long enough. Y'all go ahead and move on from there.
Listen, wherever the best deal is where, because listen, it's about business.
Yeah.
Listen, it's about business.
Yeah.
And as a player who has been cheered, has been booed when I said I wanted to leave.
Yeah.
You know, and when I said I wanted to leave, everybody said, well, boo didn't leave, you know, then get out of here then, you know, and not knowing behind closed doors, what was said to me behind closed doors was basically, hey, we don't want you after this year. You know, and so I'm like, all right, well, if you don't want me, then trade me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like behind closed doors, we're going at it, you know. And it's one of those things where I had to be there and sit down and say, I need you to tell me you don't want me here.
Yeah.
You know, and so now I have to go out and when I say what I say, you know, all the outside world sees is me say I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
All right. But they don't know that I was in there trying to fight to stay here.
Yeah.
You know, and so, but that's the business of it. You know, luckily I was able to stay here, but the business side, the business side is, you know, at any time that they could have cut me. If they didn't think that I was the guy, they could have cut me. They could have traded me away, got picks and whatever that is. And I'm like, okay, bye. There's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so when players leave, fans, you know, they have such an emotional tie to their team that it's like you betrayed us and you left us, you know, but it's a business. And
it's a business.
So it's a business. And, you know, who knows, maybe they do go back to Soldier, you know, you know, they can rebuild within the stadium, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there's options, and which bodes well for the organization. There's options, and they open the door. And you listen, you know Chicago like I know Chicago, you know. I mean, somebody want to fatten their pockets. Everybody wants to fatten their pockets, you know. And so, you know, and who's going to give them the best deal if they go to Arlington Heights and they say, man, listen, we're going to raise your taxes, all right? Because I want to pat my pockets, all right? Then, hey, listen, come to Naperville and our taxes won't be as high, okay? You know what I mean?
We need less. We need a little less.
Yeah, I'm thinking long term here. Long term, okay? So,
we need a little bit less on this side. We don't need as much. We need money.
As much.
We don't need as much money.
As much. You know what I mean? So it's it's who's going to give the best deal. Yeah. You know, that's favorable to the organization, and you have plenty of cities, plenty of options, and they'll find it. You know, it might also be a ploy to help Arlington Heights. You know, hey, listen, you got to have to take your head out of your butts a little bit, man. Now we got to open the door. Now we have to do this to force your hand, you know, to do this or that. But who knows? Who knows? Yeah. I just know that in Chicago, you know, everybody wants to get paid now.
And I think here's the thing for me, right? Like at the end of the day, we were talking about this beforehand. The Bears are going to play somewhere. I don't care where the Bears play. Personally, for me, as a fan, I enjoy football more on the TV because I can see everything. Football stadiums alone. If I'm sitting at one end of the end zone and something goes down on the other end of the end zone, I'm just reacting to whatever the people down there are doing. I don't have no idea what's going on.
Maybe they get back to Decatur and become the Staleys again.
Oh, God, no. But hold on now. Wait a minute. Like, let's not go. Hey, let's not go. Hold up. Here's the thing. Do you change the name back if you go, or do you keep it Bears?
If we're back, I feel like
the Decatur Staley podcast don't ring the same. I'm not going to lie to you.
It's different. It's different. It's such a comical bear. It's a comical bear, you know?
That's a tough one right there. That's it. I love the point you brought up, though, about like your situation dealing with Soldier Field and dealing with the fans at the stadium and stuff like that. How do you then, right, because eventually you do end up leaving and you're no longer a Bear, blah, blah, blah. How do you then internalize and keep a positive mindset, because you still are very much a Bears fan? You still do have love for the city of Chicago, even though you went through that point where they don't know what's going on the other side, but you're getting all the boos, you're getting all the jeers, you're getting all of the hate that came from that situation.
Well, in today's climate, you get everybody's first emotional response because of social media.
Yeah.
You know, and so what I have learned and what I try to tell the you know, so a lot of the youth and youngsters that are coming up, that you don't listen and don't read everybody's first emotional response, because their first emotional response is usually one that it's raw. And it's the first thing that they think of, and the first thing that they think of that they can put their fingers down and respond is usually an F you, go to hell, we don't want you, this and that. And after 24 hours or 48 hours of getting the real information, you're like, oh man, I kind of understand now, you know, a little bit, you know, I kind of, you know, and so it's you never read into that stuff. Never read into that stuff, and just know that people are are emotional. You have emotional moments, and it happens. A lot of times we say things that we don't necessarily mean, or we say things that we don't necessarily understand before we understand them. A lot of times people they listen to respond instead of listen to understand. And so, and that's the case for a lot of Americans. And once they understand, it starts to change the tune, or they'll find a different angle to serve their statement.
Yeah, it's so interesting when you talk about like today's climate and stuff like that. When you think about how I think about a lot of the situations. I always think about Deion's situation, leaving Jackson State and going to Colorado. And right when you find out all the details and everything that went into that, you're like, oh wait, like he was helping, like he was actually like the good guy in this situation. But the initial response was just right, like, how could you leave? How could you take blah blah, whatever you want to take from it.
He never faltered. He never faltered. He just stayed exactly who he was all the time. Yeah. And so with that being said, like I haven't changed. There's nothing in me that has changed. So, whatever is being said, all the noise that's happening, I've stayed steady. Yeah. I've stayed steady. And so everything else changing, I use this term for football a lot. I learned it from Rod Marinelli. Hey, the weather changes, we don't. And so while everything else is going on, we stay steady in doing what we do to create our success.
Do you think a lot of players today end up kind of changing up who they are based on the situation? Like when they get that hate, you see a lot of like it's either I think about like Julius Randle with the Knicks, right? He started playing poorly. He was playing poorly. Yeah. They booed him, and his reaction was basically to say "F you" to Knicks fans.
Right.
Versus I want to play better.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been my worst critic. Yeah. I've always been my worst critic. So I'm a sore loser. So when we lose as a team, I tune out. I don't want to watch other teams' highlights. So I'm not listening to a lot of what's going on the outside. I want to get back to practice. I want to see how I can make these corrections, and I want to start making these corrections right now. Yeah. I want to get on the field and play somebody else right now so I can feel better about myself, better about in our situations.
That's that Miami Heat mentality, right? When they lost that game 6, they was like, we want to play this game right now.
Right now, right. I mean, the other thing too is right now, the NILs, they're opening up NILs in high school. Obviously it's in college. And it's changing so much of the way we think. And as a coach, it's, when you preach team and things that the principles that you've really been raised on. Right. And then let's say you have a son that's going to UTEP, or Sam Houston State, you know what I mean? And no knock against those schools. I'm sure they're great institutions, but then they have a great season and they get offered probably one of the Power 5 schools, and now it's like, and they get a better cool NIL deal. It's like, man, I know. I said, hey, we said we're going to come in here, we're going to win championships together, but I mean, it's hard not to pass up that NIL deal, So
it's like Rondo talking about playing for the Lakers. Everybody was, how could you ever play for the Lakers? He said, they offered me money.
They offered me right.
Didn't nobody offer me money?
Right. Now, if you get to the point where, let's say you're in one of the Power 5s, and the difference of the NIL deal from the place you're at to the other one is 10, 20 grand. Yeah. And you're like, man, I just want to get that extra money. That's to me, there's a level of greed where you're disregarding all the guys that you're playing next to. Yeah. To go chase money. And if you're chasing money, I don't want you on my team anyway. You know what I'm saying? We're here to chase championships. We're here to be passionate, and we're here to love this game, while getting paid at the same time based off of what we do. So and that's the other thing too. If you're a guy that's always chasing money, you get into the NFL. Once you have the money and you're not chasing money anymore, what kind of a teammate are you? And can I depend on you? A lot of guys, once they get the money or they get the fame, they become less dependable on the football field.
It's definitely a different world in sports. I'll tell you that much right now. Just here's the funny thing, right? Like we knew the deals were going on, but just hearing them so openly, right? Like, listen, Alabama has some money. You know what I mean? Like,
they're putting a lot of it into football. They're putting a lot of it in football.
You know, it's one
LSU. LSU in all sports. LSU is killing it in NIL in all sports, in basketball, women's basketball, softball, baseball. They're doing good things out there.
Man, the women's basketball. Shout out Angel Reese out here. They out here balling. I love that they keeping that together, man. It's so funny to see because it's like when you see certain people get deals, it's like good for them, and then you see other people get deals, you be like, all right, like now you just taking all the talent.
Right, but see now, a few years ago, it was. Remember we were talking about this guy or that guy. He's too good of a player. He's probably going to skip the bowl games or skip this or skip that.
Yeah.
Shoot, some of these players now, man. If you're not round one, or possible round one or early two,
you going back to college.
You might stay. Let's get this NIL money and stay here as long as I can.
Hey, especially at one of those big schools like LSU or Alabama. I don't know, man. All I know about LSU is the more games they lose, the less accent Brian Kelly has after every single game. Like he starts off every season just like, we are here and we're gonna be great. Now by the end of the season, he's like, I just don't know what happened. He is the Southern version of Michael Jackson. We're back to the point that we made earlier. It's a whole different voice,
which is amazing. Hey, listen, which is a lot of talent. Brian Kelly, that's a lot of talent to be able to change up your Southern and non-Southern accent at demand, on demand.
Is he the Michael Jackson of college football? Is that what we say? Never mind. Don't worry about that. Hey, that's another episode of Chicago Bears Podcast. Appreciate you guys for showing love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Make sure that you leave it a 5-star review on all podcast platforms. We're here Monday through Friday. Tune in with us tomorrow. Courtney Cronin in the building, talking OTAs, talking more Bears football, and you can shake a stick at. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer, joined by Lance Briggs. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago.
All right, y'all. Bear down.
Peace.